G'day everyone. Welcome back to the Toon podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's biggest and best podcast for all things Newcastle United. It's been a window, it's been a 48 hours, it's been a 24 hours, and today we're joined by the man responsible for getting the Premier League on Stan Sports, so we only have to pay for one subscription with the Champions League and the Premier League. It's Adam Peacock. Welcome back, Adam.
Good to be back, guys. How are we?
Relieved. I am anyway. I don't know about anyone else. Jimmy and Jack are also here. How are you boys feeling?
Good. It's been a very, very long, I would say 6 weeks since this whole Isak stuff all started, but basically the whole window has been long, hasn't it? It's always a relief to get it over with and we can start actually thinking about some football again.
That's it. Jimmy, it's probably the most chaotic transfer window as a Newcastle fan I can ever remember. Are you probably thinking along the same lines?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only one that rivals, it doesn't even rival it because we never used to buy any players, but when Carroll got sold and I was hanging off the Sky Sports ticker to see if he was going to be sold on the last day. And then when Torres went to Chelsea, he ended up going to Liverpool and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a disaster. We've now lost our number 9, our local lad. But this was obviously a lot different. It was just draining in the end. I mean, like every night you're waking up in the middle of the night with a little one, you check Twitter, you see what's going on, who's broken this story, what's notifications turned on for all these clown journalists. And I'm glad to unfollow them now and not read any of their rubbish in the next 6 months because they were very, very, very rough to deal with that sort of stuff. But look, we move forward and obviously we'll recap it tonight, but we'll move forward and I think we'll be better for it.
I think you're using the term journalist a little bit too loosely too. Mate,
I think so too. You know what?
When you speak of them people.
Yeah, yes. They're not journalists, no.
Yeah, so before we get started, Adam, I thought we'd just quickly touch on, for those of you who have been living under a rock or don't have a Fire Stick overseas, Stan Sports is the new Premier League rights holder here in Australia. It's been an absolute seamless transition. The Super Saturday crew's nearly, 2/3 of the Super Saturday crew from Fox Sports are back together. We've got Fozzie replacing Robbie Slater. How have you found it? Is it like riding a bike? What's the last kind of 3 weeks been like? It's been a huge start. I think over 1 million viewers I've read for nearly each of the first 3 Saturday kickoff games, which have been 9:30 here on the Eastern Seaboard in Australia. How have you found it? Is it good to be back covering the Premier League again?
Yeah, it's awesome. It was a nice little surprise that we got in July, and obviously I feel a lot for some friends who are working for Optus Sport who were told that Optus Sport wasn't going to continue with the Premier League and it moved over to Stan Sport. I think the biggest thing for Stan was to make sure that the migration for those existing Optus customers over to Stan has been as smooth as possible. I don't know all the anecdotal evidence of it being an absolute pain in the backside or being seamless. I'm not sure where in between those two it actually rests, and you guys could maybe tell me more about your personal experiences, but that was the key for it all. And then the addition was, why don't we just encourage people to maybe get over to Stan who weren't on Optus, and then the best way to do that is to put it on your free-to-air channel 9 for the first 3 weeks only, and that's what they did. And just to encourage people to purchase Stan. And even in the 2 weeks that we've been on air, we've announced the fact that we've got the Women's Super League, the WSL, and hopefully Newcastle will be in that one day, and also the UEFA World Cup qualifiers too, which is close to the hearts of a lot of Australian football fans. So yeah, it's been hectic. It's been a bit of a whirlwind that now all of a sudden you open up Stan and you can watch as much football as you can possibly fit into one day. So how's your guys' experience been in these 3
Jack,
weeks?
you can go first, mate.
Yeah, it was good. It was seamless. I was a bit worried when it came out about how these things might work, but it was good, and it hasn't cost. I don't think it's cost me any more money either. So it seems to have been handled really well. In terms of all the football you can watch, I'm sure Dimmy will give it a good go of watching live football back to back as much as he possibly can. But I think having the Premier League and the Champions League on the same platform is really, really good. So yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, and people in the outside the UK, I mean, they just don't realise how good we've got it here. You know, they've still got the blackout, the 3 p.m. blackout in the UK, so they can't actually watch the Saturday afternoon games. So we've got it so good here, and people who've emigrated like me will never take that for granted. So anything live football is good as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's been good.
Yeah.
Jimmy, how about you, mate? What's your transition been like?
Yeah, smooth, mate. I mean, yeah, Jack's right. I try to watch every single live football game that I can watch in every single league and all hours of every day. But so for me, it's perfect because Stan's got basically everything that I'm going to be watching. So that's perfect. But no, I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, Adam, we're biased because we love Adam. He's one of the pod's own, but I think he's the best football host in the country. He's fantastic, and for him to be hosting Premier League again, like you said, Match Day Saturday back in the day was fantastic with Robbie and Boz and A League leading up to Premier League. That was sensational to have him and Boz back working together on Premier League, and obviously Fozzie is great as well. I think that's a great combination, and yeah, it's been a seamless experience, and to have that connection as well with Aussies covering the game and having the guys on the shows, I think that's great as well.
Yeah, it is. Is there any difference, Adam, from when you were on Matchday Saturday with the hosting side of things, or is it pretty much the same? Just maybe a new person, but new teams, obviously. But is it the same kind of process and things like that you went through?
Yeah, obviously you're still talking about football. The big change is the fact that now it's essentially a streaming product. It's not a cable television product. It's not a television product. It's a streaming product, and there are subtle differences there in the sense that you don't need to do the level. Well, for instance, back in the days of Fox, I think it was in the early days of where you could get the Premier League production stuff, but we decided, no, we won't pay above that. We'll do our own production, a lot of things. Now it's changed. You've got Premier League productions which cover everything, wall to wall. And it's, you don't need to do too much locally on top. We just decided to do these first three, and hopefully through the season we'll be doing some more. But yeah, the fact that it's a product where you can just plug in and get everything instantaneously, and the way it's consumed is very, very different. That like I've talked to the guys that the 9-minute highlights are just huge.
Perfect.
The minis are huge, and in some respects sometimes bigger than the matches themselves, especially if they're on at 2:00 in the morning. So it's just in a TV sense, it's a vastly different product, but in a football sense, it's just a little bit quicker than what I was working on back in the day. Still is great, though.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's three blokes talking about football before a game and at halftime. So
exactly,
it is. The more things change, the more things stay the same, really. So that's great. So what are the plans for the rest of the year now? The Channel 9 blackouts started and everyone said their little tease to sign up to Stan. Will you still be presenting like the early kickoffs on Stan, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, at this stage, no, because they'll have the Premier League productions covering it, but nothing's absolutely locked in at the moment. So we're still working out what we're going to do with Champions League, if we're going to do some midweek shows and content in that sense. So yeah, it's still bedding it down because everything happened so quick. The absolute key for Stan for its reputation was to get the thing working. That's the the upfront key, and obviously Optus back in the day, they rectified it and turned it into a magnificent product. But at the start, they had some issues in terms of accessibility when everyone logged on at once to say watch a Liverpool game. So that was sorted out, and that was no fault of whatsoever of the people who were doing the production and trying to put some content together around it. It was just I think a misjudgment in terms of what capacity you needed. So fingers crossed everything's okay. A big test will obviously be for Stan will be, in terms of everything going okay, will be the Merseyside derby on September 20. I think that will break all kinds of records on Stan Sport for a live a match viewed live. So yeah, we'll see what happens, what evolves through the season, but everything's kind of come together really quickly. And with TV, you need to plan accordingly and plan properly. And we're still in that process.
Yeah, well, I can only say from my experience, and I think the other two boys as well, it's got off to a good start. I haven't personally had any problems. I haven't read of any issues and that online and things like that.
Yeah.
So, like
I'm
you
happy with
said,
that.
like with Optus stuff, the main thing is getting it away, and then once you're away, you can sort of, like you said, get away smoothly, figure the rest out on the fly, and yeah, hopefully it goes from there. But it definitely is promising signs because it started great, and like I said, it's good to have Premier League and Champions League on the same streaming service as well, which is a lot. I think better. I think there are only maybe one other league, Dimmy, that they might need to look into to make it the Holy Trinity, isn't that right?
Would be nice, but
Yeah.
let's see when that contract finishes.
Yes. All right, enough about Stan. Let's get stuck in. Like I said earlier, the most chaotic and stressful and any other adjective you could probably think of would apply to this transfer window regarding Newcastle United. We'll quickly go in. Our transfers in: Anthony Alanga signed from Nottingham Forest, Aaron Ramsdale on loan from Southampton, Malik Chow from AC Milan, Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa, Nick Voldemada from Stuttgart for a club record fee. And with 30 minutes to go, or was it 30 seconds to go in the transfer window, Johan Wissa signed finally from Brentford to replace number 14. And our key players that have gone out: Callum Wilson left on a free to West Ham, Sean Longstaff went to Leeds, Martin Dubravka's gone to Burnley, Odysseus Vlachodimos has gone to Sevilla on loan, Matty Targett's gone to Borough on loan, and number 14 has gone to Liverpool for a British record fee. So we might start with number 14. Might be a good place to start. Adam, at least our podcast group chat has been completely split down the middle, probably for the last 3 weeks regarding number 14, to sell him or not to sell him. I know the decision's been made now, but what was your thoughts as this whole thing was playing out? Were you a hold firm and don't let him get what he wants, or were you like, no, this bloke's done enough damage to the club and to the team and we need to get him out?
Yeah. If we weren't in the Champions League, I'd say I'd probably have a different view, but I just wanted it to be over. And I always fall back on instances like this. I don't know if you guys do, but I look a bit wider and I think, you know what? It's one player. It's a whole club. It's a whole community. It's a whole feeling. And I know this is getting all wishy-washy and romantic and all that crap, but that's what it is. It's like this huge institution where they pack out and the feeling is back in St. James's Park every home game, like never before almost. And yeah, it's this huge thing that's building and building. And yeah, you're going to cop a couple of whacks along the way. And this is a significant whack because I'm not undermining the thought that this guy is replaceable. It is very hard to replace 25 goals in the Premier League. It's just not. Like, look at last season with Manchester City. They lost their best player, Rodri, and look what they turned into. So it is extremely hard to compete at the level you want to without your bet. You don't get better by being without your best player. So, and he was last season. He was at his top. He had, ups and downs. It'd be interesting to see what kind of workload he's put upon him at Liverpool, because there were signs that he could fray a bit physically if he was overworked. But look, in the end, go. You don't want to be there. Are we better with you? Yes. Are we better without you? Remains to be seen. But they've spent the money coming in. They had to because of Champions League. We can't go through what we went a couple of seasons ago and try and play the same way with the same size squad and expect a different result. So now we've got a bit of adaptability with the 11 that we choose. And life goes on, and hopefully within 2 years' time, we're not even thinking about this as a seminal moment for the club, which is what it feels like right now.
It does. But like you said, I don't think anyone's bigger than the club. And I think you can say the same thing. I think you say we're better without him, but we're also better without him too, because the way he's acted, especially probably the last 6 weeks, if he did stay and it was tried to be kind of reintegrated through the squad and things like that, his mind wouldn't be there. Like it's
That'd
for
be
the
rubbish.
best that
Yeah.
they got rid of him, and he'd be half carding it, and he'd be no good for anyone. And he'd probably, I don't like using the term, but he'd be a bit of a cancer around the place. And one person could do a lot of damage in terms of locker rooms and culture and everything like that. And the club and Eddie Howe, and they've worked so hard to get the culture to a place where it is now. And the last thing you want is one bloke there sort of tearing it down. So, and if Luke Edwards' articles to be believed that come out this morning, he might have been sort of actively doing that towards the back end of last year as well. So it is sort of good to get him go. Dimmy, I'll come to you first, mate. What were your thoughts on him basically just blanking everyone on the way out with statements and things like that, both when he was here and when he signed at Liverpool?
Weak, I thought it was. Hiding away in his little mansion or wherever the hell he lives in Newcastle, and refusing to train, refusing to play, putting out a little statement on Instagram. I mean, just weak as piss, to be honest. And the thing that really pissed me off is we treated him with nothing but respect. He came to us with obviously a lot of talent, but he just scored 6 goals in La Liga for a middle ranked team, Real Sociedad. Not like he was playing for a top 3, top 4 club in Spain. We took a chance on him. We spent a massive fee, or club record fee at the time. He flourished at Newcastle. Eddie Howe is, I think, one of the top managers in not only in England but in Europe. He's developed him. He's molded his game, and he's turned him now to probably the top 2 or 3 striker in Europe. And for him to throw his toys out of the pram and essentially say, oh, he promised me something, and that they reneged on their promise, blah blah blah. I mean, this guy's weak as water, and it makes me, obviously made me angry at the time, and makes me sad as well, because you look back at the great moments we had last season and even the last 3 seasons, and he's obviously going to be prolific in a lot of them because he was fantastic for us. And I mean, he scored the winning goal in the cup final, and even the other day I was watching the cup final highlights just because, I don't know, I was bored watching the cup final highlights. And when he scored that goal to put us up 2-0, it's, I don't know, it doesn't, I mean, obviously we've won a trophy. It's amazing. It's everything we've dreamed of, but something just doesn't sit right with me. And I remember the feeling that gave me when he scored, and we won, and it's 6:30 in the morning at CQ, and we're singing "Gimme, Gimme, Gimme," and it's just great times. And obviously you can never take those memories away, but to be here 6 months later, less than 6 months later, it's a bit sad. And it definitely leaves a sour taste in the experience that we've had, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, you've been pretty staunch on this from day one, that we needed to go, and he's completely failed the no dickhead policy that we've put in here. What were you thinking? What were your thoughts? Not when he left, but the fact that he didn't really acknowledge anyone who helped sort of get him to where he is and to the player he is now.
I just think it's sad. It's a sad ending to what's been a really good 3 years. But I think everything changed when Voltemada, as you very well pronounced earlier, Keegan, when he signed, because we didn't need him as much then. We had a replacement of sorts. So, and I think anger has been growing towards him over the last 3 games as well, where, generously he's cost us 3 points. If you wanted to be a bit more harsh, you could say he's cost us 7 points. His teammates have been given everything to try and get those points, and he's been sitting at home twiddling his thumbs. And I think that's that feeling of anger. You feel betrayed when a player does this as well. We're emotional football fans, but at the end of the day, it's a privilege to play for Newcastle United. It's an honour to be coached by Eddie Howe. We've done really well by him, and he's thrown it back in our face. So I think he had to go. Like earlier on, I thought maybe Eddie pulled him around last summer. He managed to pull him around, and he got him firing again. And he was unsettled at that point. But it looks like Jamie Rubin and Yasser and a few others went round to his house the other day before the Liverpool game, and he basically still just said no, he didn't want to stay. So it's a good deal at the end of the day. We've made we've made a lot of money from a club where there was only one club interested. So I think it just had to happen. So, but it does taint memories of that day, that cup final slightly. Maybe in time that won't be the case, because he was such a good player. There's no point sitting here pretending he wasn't, and he's not going to be a massive miss. But it's also fair to point out that he's been injured a lot, and I think his attitude and his professionalism is really, really bad. And I think Liverpool have to be a bit careful of that for the future as well. And I don't think he was injured for Arsenal last season. He cried off that game. If we'd have won that, we would have guaranteed Champions League. So you don't want a person like that at your club. So if you'd have said to me, I'd be sitting here relieved that he'd left at that, at the start of the summer, I would have thought you were crazy. But that's where we're at. He's made this situation for himself, and now we can all move on, and that's good.
Absolutely. Now, Adam, we spoke about this we had a chat a couple of nights ago after the Leeds game. Would you say that the big German himself is not sort of a like for like, but he can be the number 14 when he first come, and that's why getting Wissa was important, because he could be the Callum Wilson that is the established Premier League striker. He can sort of plug in and play while Big Nick sort of finds his feet a little bit, and we can kind of gradually integrate him to the side and things like that, because there's no sort of risk with Wissa. He knows the league, he knows the players and things like that. He's a proven goal scorer, and he'd be a lot easier to sort of get into the team and get going rather than Voldemort. So well, Jack.
Nick, I don't know if you saw the interview that they did, and he goes, I like his sense of humor. He was asked, what's your nickname? And he just goes, Nick. And moves straight along. It's beautiful. He could change the shape of how Eddie kind of sets the team up, because for so long Eddie has relied on this midfield three, which runs through brick walls, and you've got Bruno and Tonali alternating as the six. One sits, one goes, try and maintain the shape that way. Joel Linton just runs around and fetches the ball like a big Alsatian that he is. But I just wonder if it's going to mean a tweak. Does it mean at his best, Big Nick goes into a second striker role? Because you look at all the reports, and if you haven't read it, Seb Stafford-Bloor, the German, very good German writer on The Athletic, did a really detailed analysis of what this guy's about. Has he come from nowhere? You look at his record and you go, wow, he's had 6 months of good professional football, but got a bit more depth to him, to that, and his profile and his link play. He's not a target man. He's not he's essentially a 5'8" player in a 6'6" body. So
yeah,
and Wissa is he doesn't look like he's much over 6 foot, and he looks like he plays like a 6'6" striker. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see what it does to our attacking shape, and if it changes it. Eddie obviously likes quick wingers, like everyone in the Premier League now, but we've got a Langer who's arguably the quickest in the league. Gordon, Murphy, who continues to improve. He's another. You put 10 in the Eddie Howe case study of great improvements under a great coach, and Jacob Murphy is definitely in that bracket. So, yeah, it's exciting in a way that we could come up with some variables instead of just playing the very similar ways the whole time. The only adjustability he really has is playing 3 at the back or 4 at the back. So, yeah, we'll wait and see.
I don't know about you, Dimmy. This smells like a 4-4-2 brewing.
Hey.
Who knows? Well, it could be a 4-4-2. I mean, look,
any kind of operation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, it gives us, like Adam said, I mean, it gives us options now, because number 14 was probably purely a striker. I'm not going to say his name, but I refuse to say his name on this podcast.
I'm laughing at the beautiful pettiness of it all. That's great.
Yeah, I know, just childish, completely childish. But no, he was just a striker. I mean, he could drift in from out wide, but he was purely a number 9 up front. Whereas, so we couldn't really maneuver that formation. And Callum Wilson was, again, just a pure number 9. So now that we've got Big Nick, he can be that little bit of a variable. And the fact, the beauty that we've got Wisser as well, we don't have to put the pressure on him and say, guess what, mate, you're now replacing a 25 goal a season player. Go up front first game. You're the man who's going to save us. There's a little bit less pressure on him now. And Eddie's always looking to improve. I mean, he's one of the smartest coaches, smartest blokes out there. He's not going to just sit there and say, I'm going to play the same way every single season. We have to evolve. If we want to evolve as a team, as a club, he has to evolve as well as a manager in terms of the way we want to play. So, I mean, we're trying to compete now at the top level in terms of top 4 year in, year out, and hopefully Champions League year in, year out. So we have to have different options and different modes to play. And yeah, I think Big Nick gives us those options.
Absolutely. Jack, I think there's been a few people as well that have been crying out for a number 10, someone who can maybe play with the ball at their feet and unlock a low block. Do you think at times Big Nick could be that guy, given how good he is with the ball at his feet?
Yeah, the thing that Seb Stafford Blower, who's actually been on our podcast before, but yeah, the thing he wrote was really good about Voltemada, and all of the data people say that, you know, there was a heat map of him where he's basically in the number 10 position, like on the left-hand side in the midfield as well. So we've struggled against low block teams at St. James's Park, but, you know, Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham, West Ham, they all beat us at St. James's last season. And even teams like Leeds a few years ago, we couldn't beat them as well. So
Forest as well.
Forest. So I think it's going to be a good option. You know, we could go into more of like a 4-2-3-1 where you don't need that. Maybe you don't need Joe Linton in there for games like this. And Isak got 27 goals in all competitions last season. Visser and Big Nick between them, they got 37, I think, goals between them. I know Big Nick's in a different division, but if you can, you're not going to, like Adam said before, you're not going to replace Isak's quality in one player. But if you can do it in the team and get the team functioning a bit better, then I think that's what the target is. And like Dimmy's just said, we've got the best coach. He's developed, even from the Champions League season 2 years ago, he'll have learned so much from that campaign. And that's why I'm just always so positive about our future. And, you know, the squad development has been good, but the thought of seeing him get his hands on this exciting German striker who's actually is the big German hope as well, because they love having a big striker and haven't had one for a while. So somebody who's skillful and who's got that unique profile, I think he's going to be a lot of fun. It probably won't always work. He's not going to bang in 20 goals this season, but I think the overall picture could be very exciting. And we know the club does the due diligence on players, and they don't sign players unless they're almost certain they're going to succeed. So I think it's very exciting now.
Yeah, it is. Now, getting to the exciting part, Adam, I'll come to you first, and I'll sort of give you a bit of a lay of the land, if it might help you with your decision. So if you look at our squad, kind of who's come in and who's come out, like we went through earlier, even going back to January, you could say Alanga's replaced Miggy in that winger role that we needed. Ramsdale's replaced Dubravka or Lakademos, whichever way you want to look at it. Malik Chow's replaced Kelly, the centre-back we lost. Jacob Ramsey's replaced Sean Longstaff. Wisser's replaced Wilson, and Big Nick's replaced number 14. So having said that, what would you give a transfer sort of rating out of 10 for the club's business in this window?
If you use the word business, 10, because you've sold at the top of the market, and yeah, you've had to pay probably overs for 2 players, but that payment's furnished that. But I mean, ask me after 4 match days of the Champions League when things are a bit hectic. But
yeah,
at this stage, I would say 7, and the only reason it's not a 9 is because of the reasons mentioned, that number 14 and his 20 plus goals a season aren't there anymore. So yeah, I think the soap opera aside, around that, they've done what they've had to do, and they've done it pretty well. Remains to be seen if these players can adapt to the quality that's required for us to do what we want to do in 4 competitions. But yeah, like Eddie's been given the tools to kind of make something of it, so it's over to him now, and I'm pretty enthused at the prospect.
It is, and I am too. And it was funny because we've spoken about this before. That I think when we're looking at these big market players, we didn't really need many because, like, who are they replaced out of our starting 11? Like, a lot of our starting 11 are bloody good players, and I think the right winger spot, and you could argue maybe the right centre back spot, was probably really the only positions that were in urgent need of an upgrade. And we've done that with Alanga, and Chow coming in is definitely going to help maybe manage Shah a year or two longer because we've got a decent backup in. Now, we've fattened the squad up a lot, and our depth is, and hopefully, fingers crossed that we stay relatively injury free, but our depth is a lot better, and we're probably in a much better spot, or as good a spot as we've ever been to fight for competitions because of what we've done with the depth and stuff like that. So I think it's great. I was reading some stuff tonight after work, and I looked at 4 different outlets and their transfer ratings. The highest ranking they done theirs in a letter form. The highest ranking we got was a D, and I was flabbergasted by that. I'm like, well, I don't understand how you could come to that conclusion. But Dimmy, what would you give the window out of 10?
I would give it a solid 8.25. So, interesting number, but not quite an
8.25 for.
Not quite an 8.5, but it's better than an 8. So 8.25.
Yeah. Well, when you put it like that, yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, look, I think you guys are right. I mean, we've essentially upgraded every position except for the striker, which is an unknown, because we don't know how big Nick's going to adapt to the Premier League. But besides that, we've upgraded everywhere else. And people forget that we were a Champions League finishing team last year, and we were in the top 3 or 4 until the last couple of games. We didn't shit the bed, but we sort of stumbled over the line to finish in a Champions League position because we lost at home to Everton. But barring that, we would have finished 4th. So we're no mugs, and we've got a quality starting 11, first 15 players as it is. So the fact we've upgraded that, not the fringe area, but the potential players to play first team football. I mean, all those players that we've signed, I think I'd be pretty comfortable if they have to play a good run of games. They're all going to be decent enough, and they're better than the options we've had previously. And the fact that we've got a massive transfer fee in as well for him, and we haven't probably spent all of it, I'd say, given the way the amortization works and how all these PSR rules work. It's a fair guess we're going to have some decent money to spend in January and beyond. So I think it's a very good window, and like Jack said before, most of the signings we get have been fantastic under Eddie Howe, and the guys do a great due diligence in terms of who we sign. We're not just throwing money around because we don't have the money to throw around. So when we do sign players, inevitably they work out. So fingers crossed all these ones work out as well, and we could be sitting here in 6 to 12 months' time saying, who is number 14? I forgot his name because Big Nick is just ripping it apart.
Yeah, Jack, what would you give your rating, mate? Preferably to 1 decimal point if possible.
Yeah.
I would say that I'd give it a solid 8, I would say, because I think we'll probably lose a couple of marks, obviously, for losing a world-class player, but also all that trouble we had trying to sign key top targets at the beginning of the window was not very nice. And they wanted to try and get Trafford and João Pedro. We didn't manage to get them, but they've pulled it around really well. One of the really important things is the squad average age has come down because we've still got a lot of, let's call them elder statesmen in the team. Trippier, Byrne, Shah are all getting on. So we needed to bring that age down, which we've done. All of those replacements for the departed players are significantly younger, so that's important. And the wages is another big one as well. I worked out earlier that I think we've more or less broken even pretty much because we've had the likes of Wilson, Target, even Jamal Lewis has gone off the wage books and he was earning a decent amount as well. So it's been sensible. I think it's actually been very sensible squad building. Maybe it doesn't have the star factor when you look at it because Big Nick's a bit of an unknown, but give it 6 months and I think those people who gave it a D will be giving it a lot higher than that. You can't judge a transfer window until you actually see the players play and how they settle into the team anyway. Because if you looked at the 2023 summer transfer window, initially you would have said that was quite a bad window, but now Tonali, Hall, Livramento, they're all flying. So you need to give it time, but I think it's good. You strip away all the noise, everything that's happened, and I think it's been a good, solid transfer window. Eddie's got players he wants. I think he'll be happy, and if he's happy, I'm happy. So yeah, I give it a good, solid 8.
Yeah, good. It's actually interesting you mentioned the stuff we tried to do earlier in the window that we missed out on, but all the players that have gone to their clubs are probably now second choice in their position, which is, it's funny how the world comes around pretty quick, that they probably would have been promised the world, and things change really, really quickly. So bad luck to them. You had the chance to be a hero and be idolised by everyone, and you've you haven't chose, but you've ended up sitting on the bench at the club you've gone to. So too bad. Adam, all these new guys coming in, which one are you looking forward to watching the most?
I want to see Anthony Langer fire, especially in matches where, and like, for instance, when we play Barcelona in the Champions League, Barcelona play this ridiculous high line. Like they will literally play out, get the ball over halfway, and their back four will go onto the halfway line. So, yeah, a guy that can run 35, 36 Ks an hour in a game becomes very, very an intriguing kind of watch, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'd love to see this guy firing, because he hurt us a couple of times, didn't he? So he's got all the attributes to play in an Eddie Howe system. So hopefully we'll see the very, very best of him.
Dimmy, who are you looking forward to seeing the most, mate?
Big Nick for sure, because he's just watching that interview with the club. He's a bit of a quirky character, and I don't mind a quirky character, and he seems like he would connect well with the fans with just sort of the behaviour and his attitude. And I'm excited to see a 6'6" bloke dribble and take on players and look like he's 5'8", like Jack said. I mean, they call him Volder Messi in Germany, and goodness gracious, the amount of times they've thrown Messi's name around in world football is ridiculous. But I mean, the Germans they're not hyperbolic for no reason. He's obviously got plenty of techers, and he clearly does have plenty of techers, and he can dribble with a ball. And it's essentially watching Dan Burn dribble and be as good at football as this guy will be, which will be humorous to see. So definitely watching Big Nick take on someone and do something funny will be a sight for sore eyes.
He's going to be a lot.
I said it the other night. Yeah, I said the other night, it's so weird seeing someone shake Dan Burns' hand and look him in the eye when he shakes his hand, because everyone, and like we were fortunate enough to see him in Melbourne, how big like he's every bit of big Dan Burn when you see him in the flesh, and to see this bloke look him in the eye was just crazy. I couldn't get my head around it. So Jack, what about you, mate? Who are you looking forward to watching the most?
It's Big Nick as well, for the reasons Dimmy said, but I think Jacob Ramsey's an interesting one. I think he looked bright against Leeds before he went off with his injury. He's had some injury problems previously, so hopefully that's not a bad one. But I think he's exactly the kind of player that Eddie can get his hands on, can get him into the England squad potentially. He's a young, fit young player, and he's got a lot of ability. He's another one who's hurt us as well over the years a bit, so I think it's very promising. If Eddie can turn Jacob Murphy into what he has, what's he going to do with players who've got a bit more talent, So the whole thing's very exciting, And now we can stop thinking about number 14 as much, but the whole, it's like what Adam said about how the whole team's going to fit together as well. I think that's the most intriguing thing. And the good news is we've got so much football coming up after the international break that it's coming thick and fast. We're going to be seeing a lot of football in a short space of time. So it's going to be hitting us. And yeah, I think the whole package is going to be very exciting.
And all that football is going to be on Stan Sports too, which is the most important thing. Last one before we go. Now the window's slammed shut, as they say. Hopefully the club has settled down. Adam, what has to happen next at Newcastle United?
Just Eddie everyone gets out of the way of Eddie and the football staff. I'd like to think that obviously the situation around the CEO is very unfortunate, but that gets resolved. A proper backroom technical recruitment kind of platform is set. And I think Eddie deserves to have some kind of say there. I don't think the sporting director, you do what I say model will work with Eddie Howe there. Maybe it will work when they move on from Eddie Howe and they can then restructure it that way. But football clubs, you can't retrofit a sporting director once a coach is in there, because he's just going to get the ump because he's done things a certain way. You have to wait until that coach goes to truly implement exactly what you want to do. So, yeah, I think all that support for Eddie. I think our accountants need to get better and wiser about how we, count
Move
our
money.
sponsorships, put it that way. You want to see a bit of clarity around what's happening with the home ground. Most importantly, it's just we can finally kick back and watch some football without the worry of external factors going to affect who we're going to see on a weekend and what kind of frame of mind our players are going to be in. It's just get Joel Linton fit, and then we can go and give this league phase of the Champions League a real shake.
Absolutely. Demi, what about you, mate? What do you think needs to happen next?
I agree with Adam. I think everyone just got to get out of the way of Eddie Howe and let him do his thing, because with all the rigmarole and the noise and everything going on externally at the club, obviously he was the only face of the club, being no CEO, no sporting director. The last thing we need is to upset Eddie, so we need to get those positions filled and just let him do his thing, coach, manage how he has been doing. And I mean, we've essentially, I keep saying it on these shows, but we've essentially been playing top 4 caliber football for 3.5 years since Eddie's taken over, because we were stone cold last when he turned up and looked like we were going to be tumbling back into the second division. And ever since, from that point, for us to get finished 10th, I think we finished that season after Eddie took over, we've essentially been playing at a level of a top 4 club for 3.5 years. So just give Eddie the tools, which I think we've done a better job of this transfer window, and get out of his way and let someone else do some of the public talking, and let him do his job like he knows how.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, come to you finally, mate. What do you think needs to happen now?
Yep, all of the above. Agree with the executive structure needs to be sorted eventually, and with people who are going to be there for the long term this time. So it's absolutely right that you can't go to Eddie Howe and say, right, you've got to listen to what this bloke's saying to you, especially after what Eddie's done now. You know, he's put himself into such a position of power, and that's fine. You know, it's not the modern way to have a Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger type manager, like overseeing everything, but it works for us, and that's what Eddie has earned that right. So let's just let him get on with it. But what has to happen in the immediate short term after the international break is that we need to beat Wolves. We need to win a football match. It's been a long time since we've done that. And then we've got Barcelona. Playing at St. James's Park in less than 2 weeks, about 2 weeks. So let's look forward to that and get off to a good start in the Champions League and try and put ourselves in a good position. But just the football's back. We can forget all this stuff and just get back to talking about football. That's what we want to be doing.
Just one thing. In addition, I'd be keen to see Kylian Mbappe have a down 18 months and Alexander Isak go okay at Liverpool, and see what happens when Real Madrid come knocking on his door.
Yes. See if he wants the tools down again and say, hey, we told you this was going to happen.
Everyone in world football is a selling club apart from one.
Yeah. Oh, 2 maybe? Would Barcelona be the...
Nah,
just call them a selling club too?
Barca will still sell.
They
are too, yeah. The government are propping them up.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we might wrap that up there. Like I said, it's been the most chaotic 6 weeks probably in Newcastle history, and that's actually saying something given what's happened at this club probably over the last 30 or 40 years. But thank God it's all over. That's all I've got to say. And like you said, Jack, we can actually just worry about the things that we love doing, which is watching and supporting the club. And it's frightening when you say we've got Barcelona in about 2 weeks' time, because it's really snuck up. Like it's one of them things where the draw comes out and you just think it's an eternity before you go. Like buying a concert ticket. Like you buy a concert ticket, sometimes you got to wait 12 months to see the bloody act that you've bought the ticket for. But it's happening. It's coming around really quick. And yeah, hopefully this international break gives us a chance to just breathe and just get things in order, take a deep breath and go, right, our season starts now, which is...
They are so gettable, by the way.
It's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
really?
on that,
Yeah.
I won't talk to you boys before that, but they are so gettable. Like, you have to play well, and you've still got to contend with Lamine Yamal, who I reckon is the best player in the world at the moment. But like PSG were completely overawed by the atmosphere at St James's Park. So you take that factor, which takes the edge off Barcelona's brilliance, and the way that they play with that high line
suits us perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be ridiculous. It could end up like 5-4 the game. It'll be ridiculous.
Well, you know what? Their record's not great at St James's Park, so look, we can only look at that. So, yeah, that is absolutely something to look forward to. And I think we've got a really good mix of our Champions League sort of opponents as well, with some really good high-profile games and some games where we should be looking at winning and progressing out of the group stage, or at least into the playoff round anyway. So, yeah, it's massive. And like I said earlier, thank God this is all over and we can concentrate on doing what we're doing, which is watching and supporting Newcastle United. So we'll wrap it up there. Adam, once again, mate, can't thank you enough. It's been great to see you on the Premier League coverage again. It's going to be great to watch you again on the Champions League coverage, and good luck with it all. I hope everything keeps going on the trajectory that it is, and we get a lot more people subscribe after they've had their sort of lick of the ice cream on Channel 9, and onwards and upwards for you and the rest of the crew at Stan Sports.
Cheers, boys. Good to chat again.
Jack, Dimmy, once again, boys, thank you for your time. And we'll see everyone on the next one. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.